It was 10 years ago that the debate regarding the ordination of members of the LGBT community in committed relationships really began. The catalyst for those discussions was the ordination of Jean Robinson as coadjutor bishop in the Diocese of New Hampshire. Since that time, we've debated many aspects of our life together. The communion itself, how we are related to each other, pastoral care for all those on all sides of the issue, as well as other issues such as the centrality of Scripture and participation in the sacraments of the Church. Those debates have not been without their benefit, but as of today, we are yet to find a way forward.
First one is, when I say an easy faith, I don't mean that as in a casual sense, but they wear their faith deeply but lightly. So it means a great deal to them. They are deeply versed in theology, in the Bible and in liturgy. But this is, and there is an intensity there, but they're very comfortable, they're very relaxed about that. The next thing would be that all the people who have influenced me the most have been the people who have been most engaged in society, rather than being very inward looking. So these have all been people of great social conscience, very involved in the issues of the day.
So I've had a lot of experience in the church with great leaders. I've had a well-rounded kind of exposure to what a good leader is, and I find that those that have the qualities of caring and being open and accepting of everyone is super important. I find, not as an ordained person myself, but as a leader, because I'm a youth leader in the church, and I often find that I want my kids to understand that it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be in a heterosexual relationship, a same-sex relationship. It's okay to be a female, it's okay to be a male. It's not something that we are going to discriminate against. It's being accepting of everyone, regardless of who they are.
They helped me grow and they trusted me and challenged me. I think that, all those things.
I find they've been really accepting of me and my sexuality, and I felt like I could come to him to talk to him about anything, and it's definitely been having someone knowing the support of someone of faith supports the way who I am. It is a really good thing to have, yes. I didn't feel like I got excluded from the church when I did come out, and I definitely felt I could continue with my faith through the same church, yeah.
So leaders that have been significant to me over my lifetime, what they have in common would be that they've all been really approachable. So if I've had a problem, I could go and talk to them about it. They've given me good advice when I need it. That's not even necessarily saying what you want to hear. Sometimes it's telling you stuff you don't want to hear, but saying it in a way that's still constructive and still helps you to overcome what it is that you're needing to overcome.
I can think of several people, but one in particular who for me was a very special person, who was an amazing leader as an ordained person, who was not afraid to break the rules for what he believed in, and he stood up for what he believed was right, and even though it brought him a lot of flack and hatred, but it was important, standing up for what was right.
They were a good leader because they were open and trusting of me, and they challenged me to be the best person I could be.
For me, that person was a good leader because he came and sat alongside me and he journeyed with me where I was at, and he saw the potential in me. So he didn't just sort of say, well, I'm your leader and you must follow me, but recognised the leader within me. and encouraged me, and not just encouraged me, but equipped me to be able to lead myself. So in terms of offering resources, in terms of praying with me, in terms of putting me in touch with other people who might be able to help me along the way. So a person that really saw the potential in me.
When I think of the leaders that I admire in the church among clergy and ordained people, they have been so nimble in interacting with all sorts of different people and really compassionate with every person they approach, and that ability to relate to all sorts of communities and all sorts of needs, because people obviously come to the church with their own attendant needs and perspectives, and you know, I think also I really admired seeing the respect for often wildly different viewpoints or beliefs, and when I see that from a clergy person, that teaches me a lot.
I think both of the people, and there are others, but both of the people that I think of in terms of good leadership, they work very collaboratively with other people. They're not showmen in one sense. They quite happily work alongside others to encourage them to grow and to develop their own kind of leadership capacity, their own gifts and abilities. They're very encouraging of others. Also quite clear thinkers, so they kind of know where their own boundaries are and where the boundaries of others are. So they would, quite capable of using their authority with strength, but also with wisdom.
I think a good leader challenges you and makes you want to do better than what you've done before, and that's what this person did for me.
I'd look to any ordained person the same sort of commitment that I'd expect of any Christian, that they offer themselves to God to be used as best God can use them. For ordained ministry, I respect that there are particular gifts that are looked for. Integrity as persons, also their ability to function as a priest or as an ordained person, to share the gospel and to pastor to the congregation that they're with.
To try and walk in the footsteps of Jesus, and to show what Jesus would have done. It's a pretty tall ask, but I guess to be Jesus to the people that person ministers to.
Ordination is about allowing God's presence to lead us. So not just saying, okay, I'm ordained, this is what I want to do, but being still in the presence of God and being still with your community and discerning where we're going together. I think an ordained person is also a teacher and a preacher, and that's a huge responsibility in terms of interpreting scripture for people, helping people and enabling people to grow in their faith journey, and empowering people to be who they truly are called to be.
One of the things that I think that ordained people can do is actually take up positions based on, things such as justice, freedom of individuals, and the like. I think they're in a position to do that where many others in society are perhaps a bit more constricted. And so, but they have to do it on the basis of their faith, and they have to do it on the basis of the principles that they believe in and operate with. And that's why I think they're in such a strong position to do that, whereas others perhaps less so.
My expectation of an ordained person is to be a very ordinary person. I do not expect an ordained person, it would be very unreasonable to expect this to be somehow more perfect or more of a shining example. we're all deeply human, and so an ordained person should be that.
I think an ordained person in the church is someone who represents the faith of the church, the tradition of the church, but is also willing to speak prophetically and ask questions of the church, so to challenge, and also to be able to speak on behalf of people of faith in the world, and challenge where we see injustice or people who are suffering, and so on. So yeah, really important. A person of faith who lives out that faith in often quite a public way, in ways that we don't expect.
I think we need to be pretty well educated. Broad education, whole lot of subjects, not just the sort of the job related ones per se. How do human beings work? What are the dynamics that go on in communities, in families? How do we relate to political systems and social structures and cultural norms? All of those things are really, really difficult to kind of negotiate at times. And so we need to be knowledgeable and willing to learn about those things.
Ordained people have a huge responsibility to model healthy relationships, to model the love of God, to model respect and trust and caring and compassion.
So in terms of modelling healthy relationships, I don't expect that they would model, perfect relationships all the time, but I would expect that they were loving to their partners, that they didn't abuse them in any way, and that sort of thing.
I think the responsibilities of ordained people in modelling healthy relationships are around openness and trust, and the sharing of who we are in an open way.
I think the responsibilities that an ordained person has in modelling healthy relationships is actually no different from the rest of us. And so I wouldn't hold a clergy family to a higher standard than other families in a congregation. But I would be hoping that we would all be striving to find in our faith a stronger, deeper relationships. And that's, in one sense, all I'd hope for. But of course, that's still a big ask of all of us.
Ordained people are just normal people, and they, some are married, some are not, some have children, some don't, and that's great. And so the relationships that they're in should be happy and healthy, and I don't think we can ask any more of them than that.
Well, I think ordained people are hugely responsible in terms of modelling healthy relationships, because ultimately for me it is about God's love, and it is about modelling what God's love is for us. Now, I've had people come to me and ask some of the big questions in life, and if I'd said to them no, or go away, or you don't kind of fit here, then I think what they hear is not just me as an ordained person saying that to them, but they hear God saying that to them. So for me, it's about not just our relationships here on earth, but in terms of how we model healthy relationships is also our theology, about who God is for us, who God is for that person, who God is for our community and our world.
sexual orientation should never be a consideration when we choose our leaders, because we should be choosing our leaders on the basis of all sorts of other far more important characteristics in terms of their ability to understand people, to help people see things, to teach people, to guide people, to lead people, to offer knowledge and scholarship, all of those things.
I don't think sexual orientation factors in at all to leadership. I think it's kind of a silly question, if I'm to be honest with you, because in my experience of people who have been leaders to me, I've never approached them and asked them, what's your sexual orientation? Like, it's almost like, it's as important to me as if you like cherry ripes or Turkish delights. Like, I'm not gonna really care either way. Like, as far as leadership goes and what's integral to leadership, your sexual orientation for me doesn't factor into it at all. And I've never really heard of a leader being great because their sexual orientation's really good. Like, it's just not something that's important to the characteristic of a leader.
Leadership is not about who I am with my partner at home or who I live with. It's about how I function in the environment in which I'm placed, whether it's a church or a political party or a school or anything.
I don't think sexual orientation itself is something that should be considered when choosing leaders or choosing people to represent and lead a community. I think the most important things are integrity and honesty, and a leader who is grounded within themselves and has a sort of a sense of direction within themselves, and that to me is far more important.
I don't think we should be considering sexual orientation when we're choosing leaders. I think that it's irrelevant. What's relevant is the depth of someone's faith and their willingness to share that faith with others.
Apart from very, very particular circumstances, it's not relevant. I don't. I mean, for example, if we're looking at whether we're looking at parliamentarians, whether we're looking at public servants, whether we're looking at our clergy, whether we're looking at our sports people, our great performers, our singers and dancers, and that, it is entirely irrelevant whether they're heterosexual or homosexual. And so to actually to include that as part of the reckoning in terms of whether they're good or they're not going to be good or suitable leaders, to me is just a nonsense, really.
I don't believe sexual orientation should come into any part of choosing our leaders. It's not a part of a person that impacts how they are as a leader. You can be a great leader and be single. You can be a great leader and be in a same-sex relationship. You can be a great leader and be in a heterosexual relationship. You can be whoever you want to be and also be a great leader.
No.
Why is that?
Because I think it's an unnecessary distinction. We all have different makeups. I think the church should be welcoming diversity and acknowledging diversity of makeup and potential. And I think people with a different sexual orientation from the norm often have some very special qualities to pass on.
I really don't think sexual orientation is something that needs to be set aside as a factor when someone is being selected for the ordination process. It's just, so long as whatever relationship they're in at the time, or one that they get into, no matter the gender or sex of their partner, it shouldn't have really an influence over whether they get chosen or not. It's really if the relationship is a healthy, if it's healthy relationships is really the important point.
There's nothing that one priest of one sexual orientation would be able to do that another one necessarily couldn't.
I respect the process where sexual orientation is a factor that people at the moment have to consider carefully, and to be sure that if somebody is chosen to be ordained, that they're aware of some of the stresses and pressures that go on a particular person. But I hope that the Church will increasingly feel that by ordaining people of a sexual orientation that is same-sex attracted, they will also be showing a symbol to the world of the openness and inclusiveness of the Anglican Church in New Zealand.